5/6, welcome back. You're with UTV Live. It's dominated tonight, of course, by the shooting dead of Constable Stephen Carroll in Craigavon.
Fanatical and ruthless. That's how an expert on dissident Republicans has described the continuity IRA, who have admitted carrying out the murder.
The organisation may be a lot smaller than the real IRA, but it's proved that it's just as lethal. Jane Lochree's been looking at the threat posed by this dissident group.
The Chief Constable was never in any doubt about the threat posed by dissident Republican groups. Last September he warned they were involved in a deadly competition to kill his officers.
They're determined to kill a police officer, and that's continuity IRA, real IRA, and indeed INLA, and there seems to be some almost bizarre competition to raise their level of attack to achieve the awful objective of killing a police officer.
Formed in 1986, the continuity IRA was mainly based in the south and didn't emerge here until the 90s, when the IRA declared its ceasefire. In 1997, the terrorist group bombed Market Hill and last summer attempted to shoot police officers in Craigavon as they tried to stop rioting in the same area where Stephen Carroll was gunned down last night. The Guardian's Ireland correspondent believes the group has recently reformed and recruited new members.
The last figures were something really reasonable, about a couple of dozen, maybe 50 activists in total in Northern Ireland. They're not as spread out as the real IRA. They have a presence on the border south Armagh. They obviously have a presence in North Armagh, as we've seen the deadly effects, and they have one unit in Belfast. But as I say, even though they're small, as we knew in the past with groups like the INLA, they can be lethal.
Republican Sinn Fein believes last night's attack was inevitable.
It's always been on the cards while England remains here, and while they have their occupying forces here, it's inevitable that you'll have those young people who will take up arms against the occupation of this country, whether it be the armed force of the police or the British Army.
The author, Michael O'Toole, believes that up until a year ago there was a level of confidence that neither the real IRA nor continuity IRA had the capacity to carry out the murders that we have witnessed in recent days.
I think in security services they'll be very, very shocked by what has happened as well, and very, very worried, because I think this is the precursor to a larger, more widespread campaign. Perhaps they will next try to bomb London, for example. So, you know, these people are committed. They're really, really fanatical. They're not politically sophisticated at all. They have a goal, which is a united Ireland. Their goal is to get the British out of what they see as occupied Ireland, and they'll be very happy to kill people to get that.
The Police Federation, which represents rank and file officers, insists the continuity IRA will be defeated.
My message to dissident Republicans is this: for 30 years they have bombed us, they have shot us, they've tried to force us from our homes. That is terrorists from whatever flag of convenience. My message tonight is very simple and clear. You tried to bring us to our knees then, it didn't work. It will not work now, and it will not work in the future.
But an MEP believes the police alone can't cope with the dissident Republican violence at the moment.
Now it has to be nipped in the bud, and it has to be nipped in the bud by taking the means which are required to crush it. And I believe that that requires the introduction of special services and forces to deal with these terrorists.
Just last month, the Chief Constable spoke of his fears that his officers could be murdered by dissident Republicans.
Frankly, every night if I wake up in the morning at about 5/4 with my alarm going off, it means no one's been killed overnight. But we live in that very real situation as I currently speak to you.
At 10:45 in Craigavon last night, Hugh Ord's fears were realised. Jane Lochree, UTV Live.
Well, this afternoon the Irish government gave its response to the murder of Constable Carroll.
The Taoiseach, Brian Cowan, made it clear there would be no hiding place in the Republic for dissident terrorists. Neil Britton reports.
In Dublin, as at Stormont and Westminster, last night's murder of PSNI officer Stephen Carroll topped the political agenda. Taoiseach Brian Cowan offered his condolences to the friends and family of the murdered policeman.
He was doing his duty serving the community. In doing that, he was serving all the people of Ireland, and he was protecting the peace that we all treasure. The Police Service of Northern Ireland have our full support in tracking down these evil people. The Government and the Gardaí are actively cooperating to help them in any way we can. The Gardaí, despite the fact, frankly, that we've had a peace process, continue to deploy extensive and intensive resources to monitor and provide surveillance in respect of dissidents.
The only way we can fight them is through the through the courts and through the law and the rigours of the law, and we will do that, and we will fight them right to the bitter end, because these people are trying to bring a democracy on this island that we've painstakingly put together, that the people voted for in large numbers, so they're not listening to the will of the Irish people.
Dermot Ahern will travel to Northern Ireland tonight to meet with Paul Goggins and Secretary of State Sean Woodward with how to deal with dissident Republican terrorism, the only thing on the agenda. Neil Britton, UTV Live, Dublin.
Hearing the news of Constable Carroll's murder was shocking to those of us who've lived through terrorist campaigns. But what about the younger generation? What do they make of the latest terrorist murders? Alison Fleming reports.
Not many of the 1,200 pupils at Lagan College will have had any experience of the Troubles. Fewer still will have any memories of that time, but recent events have changed all that. Saturday's double murder at Mazarine Barracks and last night's killing in Craigavon have brought the past very much into the present.
My first reaction was I found it very upsetting, because I believed that we were making progress, we were aiming for peace, and now, that this has happened, we're wondering, are we going to go back? We're meant to be in the present, or are we going back into the past?
It was just a major shock, really, to hear. It seems it's unnecessary and barbaric and pointless.
I can remember events like Oma, but only vaguely, because it just seems like a long way off, like a distant memory, and I hoped it was.
Helen Killick is chaplain at the school. She's had visits from pupils today wanting to talk about what's happened.
Majority of them feel a sense of anxiety, a fear that things might return to the way that they've heard about, but also, I suppose, more determination to work together for a better future here.
Eamon McCallion works for the charity Community Relations in Schools. He says teachers need to create a forum for news like this to be discussed.
One of the last things we want to happen is for this type of activity or behaviour and the awful events that have unfolded to start to build mistrust, and also to block and inhibit young people from having discussions around the issues that are real to them.
The events of the past few days have shone the spotlight back on a dark time in Northern Ireland's history, a time that students here have no experience of to the extent that their mothers and fathers did, and hopefully never will. Alison Fleming, UTV Live at Lagan College in Belfast.
So tonight, another family is coming to terms with the murder of a loved one at the hands of dissident Republican terrorists. 48-year-old Constable Stephen Carroll, who was shot dead last night, becomes the first PSNI officer to be murdered.
This morning, the Continuity IRA admitted it had carried out the shooting. 2 people have been arrested in connection with the murder. Condemnation has been widespread, and a vigil is to be held outside Belfast City Hall at 7 o'clock tonight.
The ITV Evening News is coming up in just a few minutes.
Our late programme is at 10:30, but from all of us here, good night.
Good night.